Before we begin, thank you very much to Acrasia for being my latest patron over at patreon.com/TJOmega. If you'd like to help the channel go a little bit longer and produce a little bit more, you can provide a little bit over at patreon.com/TJOmega. Every little bit helps, and I thank you all for it. This is a frustrating topic that I've been putting off for a while, but we do have to discuss this because it's been on my mind a long time. So, as we know as Transformer fans at this point, we're just saw another increase to the standard price of Transformers. Deluxes went from an MSRP of $19.99 to now $22.99. And it's just like all the other price hikes, the stores aren't really adhering to it just yet, but give it a year or so and give it a holiday rush, and yeah, we're probably going to start seeing those reflected at Walmart, Target, etc. And it's frustrating, isn't it? I mean, it's really frustrating as a Transformer fan, just because I understand. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand how economics works, kinda. I understand that production prices increase, material prices increase, shipping prices increase. I know all that goes up and up. That's what inflation is. That's how screwed up an economy we have. But what we have here is a situation where I'm starting to feel priced out of my own hobby, and I'm not a masterpiece collector. You get that. So I completely cut off my masterpiece Transformer spending because it just got too freaking expensive. The complexity of those toys drove the price so high. I mean, even on a casual level, even on a like, oh, well, I'll just get Starscream or something like that. I can't afford that anymore. Like, even that is just too expensive. For one Starscream, I could buy, the entire like next wave of Transformers, Deluxes, Voyagers, and Core Class. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. I can't justify, no matter how nice that Starscream is, and no matter how big of a Starscream fan I am, and I am a big Starscream fan, I cannot justify the cost based on just what else I could be buying with that money. Can't do it. But that's masterpiece, right? That's fine. But we're starting to see that now in the normal main line. I was collecting back when it was $10 for a deluxe, $20 for a Voyager, or whatever the Voyager equivalent was called at the time. And now it's, $30 for a Voyager, which that's not a bad increase, but the deluxes have gone up to $22.99. Okay, so more than 100% more than what I used to spend for it. And I think what's hard about that, what's frustrating about that is we're seeing the toys thinner and thinner in as far as like plastic quality goes. Like the parts are thinner and thinner than they used to be. The parts are more hollowed out than they used to be. The paint has been cheapened out wherever they can. The engineering has been simplified. So they're cutting all of these corners while at the same time saying our product now costs more. I'd be fine. I'd be fine paying, I'd be fine with the price increases if the quality was maintained because they were asking for more. But it doesn't seem like that's what's happening, and part of it is probably the cycle of how Transformers works these days. In one hand, you see a Hasbro where they're doing so much with remolding now, where the internal structure is the same, or they will reuse like internal parts that don't even make a difference in the overall toy, but it allows them to not have to make a mold. Okay, fine. That's clever reusage. I will give you that, but it doesn't drive the cost down. And that's partial, and I feel like that's partially because there's so much retooling done these days in order to satisfy fans, and in a way it makes it cheaper, but in a way it doesn't because the steel tooling is still the most expensive part of the process. So it's what it's whatever at this point. Like it just feels like the way Transformers works is intentionally making them more expensive, even though they are cheaping out on the actual production. And I start to think all these things and like the frustration in me about like the quality we're getting versus the price we're paying. and I see the quality going down. And don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of good Transformer toys being produced. Some of even the most recent releases. I reviewed Gnaw. Gnaw is a really, really nice toy, but I acknowledge that at $22.99, he is a very small toy that, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't do a whole lot, for that price. So I keep that kind of thing in mind I think to myself, with the quality on Transformers decreasing overall, are we ever going to get to the point where Transformers can become better again? And that's not to say that they haven't. You look at something like, okay, you look at like Universe 2's Cyclonus. When that got repainted for Battle in Space and it was just a straight up cartoon accurate Cyclonus, I didn't think you could get better. It's a fantastic toy. It was one of my toys of the decade. Love the transformation and features on that figure. But I look at Kingdom Cyclonus, and okay, now I live in a world that has a better Cyclonus toy than Universe 2. I live in a world where the Reveal the Shield Jazz has been topped by Studio Series Jazz. But you look at that, and that toy has some breakage issues. It has some stress issues because of the clear plastic. Fortunately, it's hard for me to say that that toy is better than the Reveal the Shield, even though the engineering and accuracy to Jazz as a character is better in the Studio Series toy. And that's where I'm kind of getting a little bit miffed, because we're always waiting for like the better version of a figure to come out. We always think like, well, they're doing a new Blitzwing and Legacy, but a lot of people I talk to, and even in my own thoughts, I'm going like, I've got Legends Blitzwing from Japan, from the Japanese Titans Return line, and it's great. It's a great Blitzwing figure. What really can they do to improve upon it at a lower budget? Now, it is going to be like a Voyager released at leader class, so I'm hoping it's going to be really complex for its size. At this point, I have no idea. I think about things like that. I think about Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime and this attempt to recreate Cybertron Optimus that got kind of the way there, but just never felt as solid, never felt as good. Of course, a lot of the details were cheapened out on. The wings were a lot smaller. He didn't have any kind of gimmick to him. I mean, it's a design that I don't think you're going to do better unless you do a Masterpiece. And at the rate Masterpiece is going, I'm not going to live long enough to actually see that happen. I'm trying to think of like, who haven't they done? When I sat here and thought about, and this is where I started thinking about this, was doing my top toys of the decade. I was sitting down thinking that, and then the list of G1 Transformers that still need new toys. And I was honestly thinking to myself, when I did the second version of that list, I went out there on the picks. I went farther out and less realistic because that was the only space I could think of to go. Most every major character in Transformers has been done. And I've heard rumors of older characters with good toys coming out in different size classes. I mean, besides core, that's a completely different thing. And okay, you might have an avenue there, but also, like, I've seen like so many really nice representations of these characters coming out. I don't honestly know what you could do to improve them. You look at like Studio Series Blur, and outside of maybe giving him a nicer head tooling, I don't know what you could do to improve upon that Blur. And I look at Hot Rod, and I think to myself, well, aside from getting rid of the clear plastic, there's nothing you can do to improve that Hot Rod. The engineering on him is fantastic. The toy itself is fantastic. I think about I think about Earthrise Optimus Prime and realize the trailer could be bigger, but beyond that, it's a definitive Optimus Prime. The transformation is buttery smooth with a lot of cool tricks to it. It's a very complex figure for its size, and there's very little kibble to it. There's very little like extraneous parts just hanging off doing nothing. It does everything I would want out of a modern Optimus Prime at the retail size and scale. What would I ever want in another one? Supposedly the next Optimus we're getting is Generation 2. So I'm happy that they're going to a different style of Prime design. But where do they go after this? Because inevitably we're going to get another G1 Optimus Prime at retail. And I think to myself, what do you do? What do you do? Like, what do you do to improve upon the Earthrise figure? And by the time we get there, what are transform? By the time Hasbro is ready to do another G1 Optimus Prime at the Voyager scale, where are we going to be at as far as what we expect quality wise out of Transformers? Is it going to be more hollowed out? Is it going to be more simplified? Is it going to have thinner plastic? Is the plastic quality going to be worse? I don't know. But I know from history that those things have been happening for the better part of 20 years now, and it's not going to stop. You're not going to get shipping companies going like, oh well, you know what, we don't actually need to be making this much money, or plastic companies going, you know what, we can actually produce this a lot cheaper than we have been. Let me try that. Never going to happen. So what do? You just suck it up and buy your toy, no matter how cheap they make it, because they made your favorite character, I guess. So I'm getting a little bit burned out on this cycle of every 2 or 3 years. Oh, we got to bump the prices up, but also we have to hollow the toy out more. I'm getting tired of increased price and diminishing returns. And while the toys are still good and they're still enjoyable, I'm running out of room. I'm running out of room personally, but also I'm running out of room for forgiveness for a lot of this, because all of my needs as a collector have been met. I look at Kingdom Sideswipe, and I think to myself, I don't need to ever buy another Sideswipe Deluxe. This one looks fantastic. This one looks almost perfect. And do I really want to go and spend 22 or what might be $25 by the time it comes out on the next deluxe Sideswipe just to take those little black spots out of the vehicle mode? Do I? I don't think I do. I don't think I pay that much for a minor improvement. And that's all I see anymore is just like room for minor improvement. Like I said, I'm hard pressed to think of anyone that really needs a refresher at this point. You look at the Perceptor that's coming out. You know, it looks like a really nice Perceptor, but you look at it and I think to myself, it barely looks any different from the Titan's Return figure. All it's going to have is an integrated head, which, one, yes, it's more accurate, but if you really think about it, what it's doing is taking away playability, because he doesn't get to enjoy the Titan's Return gimmickry anymore, and his cannon mode, his like little weird tank mode, doesn't have its pilot anymore. So, is it a better toy? Maybe not. Maybe it's not worth, $22.99 to upgrade from the previous Perceptor figure. Maybe it's not. And that's kind of where I'm sitting as a collector right now. I don't know if we're at a point where Transformers can get better. And I don't know if there's a point where Transformers need to, or or have any room where left to go. Me as a collector, I look at my G1 shelf and it's basically complete. You know, I don't really have any like characters I'm pining or longing for at this point. I think about, like how much Armada, how much like Unicron trilogy would I really be interested in if they did that? Maybe a good hot shot for the laughs, but it's not like the Unicron trilogy is chock full of great characters that I really want to be reminded of. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm sitting as a collector, and that's kind of where my head has been wandering for a long time. Can Transformers truly get better again? Can we truly, can we get to the point where the next Cyclonus toy is going to be better than the Kingdom one? Are we going to get to the point where the next Hot Rod toy is better than the Studio Series 86 one? I don't know. And maybe we don't. Maybe it is downhill from here. Maybe Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime is just the example that we're not going to see better versions. We're just going to see characters again from now on. And that's my fear. That my interest in collecting Transformers is going to wane, not because the toys have gotten too cheap or too expensive, but because there's just nothing left for them to do. So, what do you think? What do you think? I know this was all over the place. I think I hit record thinking about, I'm going to talk about, can Transformers get any better? And then I went into the marketing side, I went into the cost side, whatever. Tell me what you think. Where is our hobby going? And what are your concerns with it? Because maybe I'm missing something, and we're going to have to talk about this again at some point. But let me know in the comments below, and hopefully I will see you in the next video that will maybe cover a more positive subject than this. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.